Welcome to the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee, and today is Sunday, May 4th. As always, I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and we are on the eve of the number one quarterback in America coming off the board. That's right. Jared Curtis going to announce that decision tomorrow. It's down to two teams, Georgia or Oregon. We're going to dig more into that. It's a big show today. But before we get going, guys, if you've watched the Inside Scoop just one time, go on and hit that subscribe button to the On3 Recruit channel, because this is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, and we need you to be a part of it. Go on, jump on board, and hit subscribe. All right, today's show, we're going to talk some USC recruiting. Yeah, we're going to talk about the number one team in the country when it comes to recruiting. We're going to talk Auburn and Michigan. But first, let's get into the biggest developments going down in the college football world. We've had some major ones that went down over the weekend. Let's get into it. We'll start with linebacker Isaiah Williams flipping out of Gainesville. I mean, come on. Who isn't at least a little indecisive? Like, who doesn't test a car before you buy it? Everybody likes a good test drive. Who doesn't stroll through the mall when you go to the food court and get all the free samples you can before eventually buying something? Well, that's what Isaiah Williams is doing with his recruitment, and I can't blame him. I mean, look at this. Commits to Louisville, November 23rd. Decommits January 24th. Commits to Syracuse. Stayed there from April until August. He commits to the in-state Florida State Seminoles from September to November. Then he commits to Florida this offseason. It was a short stay, March to May. He flips that commitment to Ole Miss. Yes, for those scoring at home, he's made 5 decisions. But who's to limit him to 5? I mean, hey, we got to try them all. So who do you ultimately think? Because I'm just going to go on record here. I don't think Isaiah Williams signs with Ole Miss. I think it's probably more likely he signs with somebody like a Georgia or maybe even a Colorado. So you guys let me know. Where do you think Isaiah Williams goes for his 6th? Will it be only 6? I mean, maybe it could be 10. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Moving on. USC takes the number one spot. I know Trojan fans have been waiting for this a while, but USC has established themselves as the top recruiting program in the country, and it happened earlier this week. But even since jumping into that number one spot, the Trojans have gone crazy, getting commitments from Elbert Hill, Kenye Pepe, Roderick Tizeno, Luke Weaver, have all committed to the Trojans this week, and USC's not done. I mean, they do have 27 commitments, so you'd think they'd be filling up, but I'm expecting another 7 to 8. Remember, we've been talking on this channel about USC recruiting. Scott Schrader from WeRSC, he said he expects them to take up to 35. So currently at 27, of course, there'll be some defections, but even still, there's room for more. All right, Notre Dame is on a heater, and they have been really since April 1st. Notre Dame currently sitting with 14 commitments in the 2026 cycle, top 5 class. And then on Saturday, they beat rival Michigan for one of the top running backs in the state of Texas, Javian Osborne, a top 150 overall prospect. He is committed to Notre Dame, and he is the 7th commit to the Irish since April 1st. And Notre Dame's not done either. They're still looking to add more. We could see them add an elite wide receiver, a tight end, some more on the offensive line. So there's still some big pieces yet to come for Notre Dame recruiting. All right. Number one quarterback commits on Monday. This is the headliner. 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis is set to announce his college decision this Monday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. It goes down, and his mother, Barbara, over the weekend told Steve Wiltfong that Jared is still undecided between Georgia or Oregon. Those are the finalists. But one of the biggest developments of this week was the final face-to-face meetings with both coaching staffs. Both UGA and Oregon, Will Stein and Mike Bobo, went in-home Tuesday and Wednesday to meet with Jared Curtis one last time face-to-face. Now, the last face-to-face meeting, but I would assume he's still fielding phone calls and texts, and the former UGA commit is now in decision-making mode. Yes, for those that are just tuning in late to recruiting, Jared Curtis was previously committed to Georgia. Now, he reopened his recruitment last fall. He's been high on Georgia. I mean, he hasn't named them his leader, which he has done with Oregon. He has publicly said that Oregon leads. Now, I don't think he said that recently, but coming off that decommitment from Georgia, there was a time when he was publicly saying that Oregon led. Now, He's been to Georgia a bunch. He has relationships with that staff. I'm not counting out the Dogs. Heck, I might be leaning toward the Dogs, as we're less than 24 hours away. I mean, Athens is very close to home. And what about that red Corvette? I'm always thinking about that red Corvette. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I don't know who spends six figures on a car that is colors of the team they're not going to, but we'll have to see if that makes a little bit more sense after tomorrow's announcement. What do you guys think? I mean, if there's things in his recruitment that are telling beyond just naming Oregon as leader, what do you think they are? I mean, the number of visits that he took, what do you think are the deciding factors? Which way do you think Jared Curtis is leaning? The number one recruit in the state of Tennessee, the number 6 overall prospect in the On3 industry rankings. Now, On3 slots Jared Curtis a little bit higher, number 3 nationally. But by the time this show rolls around next, when we come back on the air on Wednesday, he'll be committed. But to where? You guys let me know. Comment section below. Let's talk a little Auburn football. We got coaches on the road. We got Jeffrey Lee sitting with us. And Jeff, I want to know where the coaches are at. But first, we got to talk about a tweet that I saw last night from number 1 overall recruit Zion Ely. He's committed to Maryland. He recently came out and said, I'm shutting my recruitment down. He had 2 or 3 official visits. He took those off his calendar. But last night, he's tweeting War Eagle. I mean, what's up with that?
Well, at first I thought maybe Boston College was making a push. But, that was all about Auburn and the relationships that he's built with Auburn. And I know several coaches went to up to Maryland to see him, to see Jaira Edwards, to see Wayne Henry. Auburn's made a huge presence there at St. Francis Academy, led by DJ Durkin. Mm-hmm. And DJ Durkin was up there. Rock Bellantoni was up there. Vontrell King Williams. They've had they've had a very big footprint up there with St. Francis Academy. And I know Zion, he locked it down or he ended his recruitment. I never fell for that. I don't know that Auburn never expected him to visit. I think Auburn has always expected him to hold on to that official visit, and last night's tweet kind of solidified that.
Yeah, I thought so. Like you said, DJ Durkin has a lot of ties to that DMV area. He's not going to let Zion Ely go down without a fight. So we see him tweet about, he tweets an Eagle last night. When do you think that official visit will take place?
Oh, let me see. I had him. I think it's going to be in because I never took it off, Josh. I always thought he would. And he right now he's slated to come June the 13th. So next month, maybe a little more than a month away. I expect him to fully, fulfill that visit and see you next month back on the plains.
All right, so we'll see. I mean, I don't know if there's any other teams in his recruitment now that he's shut it down, but we know Auburn's still there despite the shutdown. Auburn still heavily involved. All right. Coach has been on the road. Who do you think, this is the spring eval period. We got coaches across the country hitting the trail to go see players in person. There's a lot of spring practices going on at high schools as well. So who do you think the Auburn coaches are going to focus on during the eval period?
They're going to start at the top. I mean, just like everybody else would. They're going to start at the top. They're going to hit their top targets on offense and defense because once this official visit season kicks off in a couple of weeks, it's going to be busy. Auburn has, I think, 30 right now we have confirmed that are planning, tentatively at least, to visit Auburn in the month of May. And that includes May 16th with, I think we have 14 guys coming in that weekend on the list. When I say we, I mean Auburn Live on 3. We've confirmed 14 for that weekend. May 30th also is going to be a big weekend. I think 16 are confirmed for that weekend. So you're looking at 30 guys coming in over the next, 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I think they're starting at the top. They're hitting their biggest needs. I know Jake Thornton has been very, very busy on the recruiting trail. He's hit several of his top offensive line targets. Vontrell King Williams has been all over the defensive line with in-state guys, with out-of-area guys. They've gone out as far as Nevada and California visiting some of these guys. I know Ben Agamoa has been all over tight ends in Iowa and in, I think, J.C. Anderson. Evan Jacobson, he's been to both of those guys. I think that was his first 2 visits. So they went national when it's coming to these eval guys. These guys are also planning on coming to Auburn. So they're almost starting out and working their way back in.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling just generally about Auburn recruiting? Because we're about to hit, like you said, visit season. that's where the rubber meets the road for what Auburn's doing. We're going to find out a lot about this class, but just heading into the summer months, how do you feel about Auburn recruiting? What are the biggest needs still left to fill?
I think Auburn is being patient, Josh, believe it or not. And I think they've got a lot to prove this fall. I think the past 2 seasons, Auburn has sold future and potential and look what we're going to be. And I think this is the first year that Auburn can actually, meet some of those expectations. I think Auburn could have a big recruiting class come December if they do what they're supposed to do on the field. And I think everybody is expecting the floor for the wins to be 7. And I'm going to be honest with you, Josh, I think that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
But I think anything less than 8 is going to be a disappointment for a lot of people, including Auburn. Now, I've talked to coaches off the record, and they think 9 to 10 wins very doable this fall. So if they could pull that off, there's no telling how they could finish in this recruiting class. So I don't think they're pushing or forcing things right now to take maybe a tier 2 guy before they can find out if they can get that tier 1.
Yeah, I get. I get that sense. Maybe I'm seeing it differently, but I felt like in the first 2 years, Auburn was just take the best available. Whatever the best available is, we're going to stack up. If it means taking 4 or 5 wideouts, we're taking 4 or 5 wideouts, whatever. Sure. But now I do feel like they're being a little bit more patient, a little bit more pointed, maybe trying to dial in and fill those needs that they must fill at the high school level.
Sure.
You get that sense?
Sure. Absolutely. They're not going to pass on a guy that they think can help them. They're not going to pass on a tier 1B guy in hopes that they can land the tier 1A guy. I do know that they have held off on taking a couple of commitments. They could have 2 or 3, at least 2 or 3 more commitments than they do right now if they wanted. And they have decided to hold off on pushing for those guys. I know at least 2 on the offensive side of the ball they could have taken commitments from and have held off to see if they can get a tier 1A guy.
All right, Auburn fans, talk to Jeffrey Lee of Auburn Live. Talk to us about who do you guys think as we head into summer is the most important target still left on the board? Let us know. Let's talk a little USC Trojans as they jump into the number 1 spot with a flurry of commitments this week, and it should come as no surprise because Scott Schrader has been telling you guys all offseason that it's going to happen. And this week, boy, did things blow up. 2 big names I want to talk about with you are Kenyi Pepe from IMG Academy and cornerback Elbert Hill out of Cleveland. Now, Pepe's an offensive tackle. If I'm looking at this right, do both of these players have a chance to come in and start from day one?
I mean, that's a good question because USC might be at the point to where they're looking timing wise. It could work out to where Kenai could be competing for that. But I think realistically, obviously, that can be challenging for those guys. And I think it just depends on who's back after this football season. But I think timing wise, it could play out to where he's definitely in the mix for competing for that. Physically ready, size wise. So, as far as being able to come in and start right away, I mean, I always hesitate to say yes on those kind of questions, but I certainly wouldn't say they can't compete either.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge pickups over the week. Well, last week into the weekend for USC, now sitting at number 1, and they are not done. 2 big names on the offensive side of the ball I want to talk to you about is Jalen Lott and quarterback Ryder Lyons. We know there are priorities for USC. Are these 2 names that USC could add before summer's up?
Yeah, it's Jalen Lott is really one of the few receivers that USC probably has room for that is in the category of having pretty good interest. I think that he's gonna come and take his official visit to USC. I don't know exactly what the date is, but he was just also at USC for the final spring practice on April 26th. So he has a sister that runs track at USC as well. So there's a lot of familiarity with USC, what the school and the program has to offer. So I do expect him to be committed this summer. I missed out on hearing. My hearing isn't that great here outside. Who was the other prospect we're talking about?
Quarterback Ryder Lyons. Now, we've talked about him a lot. We know that he's more of a 2027 recruit, but the time, energy, it's been put into this recruitment by the USC coaching staff. Are we close to the finish line with Ryder Lyons?
Yeah, that's another one. I think so. I don't think it's going to go past summer with him as well. And I do think that USC is in a really strong spot for him as they have been for quite a while. Um, he's another guy that visited probably 5 or 6 times just this year. In the we'll say 6 months. Um, and I think that he's definitely somebody that's not going to go. I don't think he's going to go past July with his recruitment.
All right, and like we said, he is, for all intents and purposes, a 2027 recruit, but also an important piece to this class. So, that being said, last year at this time, this is when the USC recruiting class began to fall apart. They loaded up early, began to fall apart right before summer hits. This year, it feels the exact opposite. Right now, USC's really hitting their stride. Things are not falling apart. Why does it seem like this year they're going to be able to hold on to what they've got, whereas last year everything kind of left them by the time summer rolled around?
Well, I think for one, these guys are committing under different circumstances. Last year you had guys like Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibson come out here, and they were basically just kind of overwhelmed, I think, with what was going on. And we got somebody here who wants to say, hey, Deshaun Rideau.
Hey, my man.
What up?
Deshaun, I wasn't sure. I thought that late visit to Michigan was going to pull you in, but in the end, you're a Trojan, so congrats.
Appreciate you, man. I had to throw the whole word off, man. I always have a plan for what I do stuff, man, and I knew that I was going to shake heads a little bit, but we know where home is for real. Come on, I'll be repping that all day.
All right.
One of the top performers today at the Under Armour camp, by the way.
Good to see Deshaun Rideau, future USC Trojan.
Never stop.
Hey, we're talking about Ryder Lions. What do you think?
Love them. Get them. We need them. I'm out. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, man. And so I think the reason why they're not going to experience a lot of they're to not have any decommits is almost impossible when you got 27 guys committed by May 5th. But I think that they have a really good coaching staff in place. Last year, almost the entire defensive staff had just got to USC in like January. So there wasn't a whole lot of familiarity with those guys. You had Eric Henderson, who had come from the Los Angeles Rams. He hadn't recruited at all previous to that. Yeah. You got Trovon Reed, who's been added to the staff, and he's a guy that kids are really familiar with on other parts of the country. But I think the biggest difference is that their NIL collective is in really, really strong shape right now. And I think ultimately that's probably the biggest determiner on them not losing a whole lot of kids this go around.
All right. Well, Scott, see you out there at the Under Armour camp right now. Go do your work. Go talk to these USC recruits. You guys do a great job on We Are SC, and we'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you. Let's talk some Michigan football. What did they do in the transfer portal? Well, I got JD Piquel here from the On3 channel to talk about it. Now, the offseason was all about the offensive addition of quarterback Bryce Underwood, but what else did Michigan do in the transfer portal to help this offense in 2025?
To me, Josh, I felt like Michigan just kind of doubled down on the formula that worked last year. You beat Ohio State and Alabama in the last 2 games of the year, throw for less than 100 yards. Why? Because the defense was phenomenal. Line of scrimmage is, bullying people around and also can run the football at a high level. So they go to the portal, get Alabama running back Justice Haynes.
And who did they beat for Justice Haynes?
They beat out Ohio State for Justice Haynes.
That must be a good sign.
It's 2-0 against Ohio State if you're counting at Michigan in the course of the last calendar year. So getting him, adding him to that running back to go with Marshall and what he brings to the table, you feel like you have your 1-2 punch, which Michigan has been historically at their best at when they have two guys that can share the load. You think about Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. So not saying that's going to be the exact same situation, but having Haynes to go with Marshall, love that duo. Absolutely love that duo.
Yeah. Now, on defense, we love what they bring back on defense, but what additions did they make that you're looking at saying, oh, okay, good for you, Michigan?
Yeah, the big one is Trey Williams to me, both like metaphorically and literally speaking, a big human being to put in the middle of that defense. You lost not one but 2 D tackles to the first round of the NFL draft. To me, if Wink Martindale is saying, I want you to come play D-line for me,
right,
probably a good sign, probably a good evaluator of talent. And just because it didn't work out at Clemson for Trey Williams in terms of him staying there doesn't mean he can't still play ball at a high level. They love what he brought in the spring.
Now, how about linebacker Troy Bowles
Yeah.
leaving Georgia? Is he a guy that you see maybe contributing for Michigan this year?
Josh, I don't know about you. I just have this rule when it comes to assessing portal pieces. If you are a high-profile guy at a school and you go to a Bama, Georgia, LSU at certain positions, or an Ohio State, and you transfer because it didn't work out, kind of same thing said about Trey Williams. Yeah. I'm not knocking you for not being able to play at the highest level at Georgia with how crowded that linebacker room is. The fact that he's going to a place like Michigan, playing in an NFL scheme under Wink Martindale, I'm really excited about what he could bring to the table. So maybe he's not a guy that you're tabbing as an All-American in the preseason, but we know the ability's there. I'm excited to see what he adds.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about it, Michigan fans. Talk to JD and I. Who are you most excited about from the transfer portal in this 2025 cycle? Let us know.